Welcome to Life Without Limits, where there are no limits to what you can achieve. My name is Joan Kaler, and I am your host. The information in this podcast is not a substitute for counseling or medical advice. The information is meant to inspire and educate listeners, but not guarantee anything of any kind. For more information on my services, please go to joankaler.com. Thank you. Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome into Life Without Limits, where there are no limits to what you can achieve. Today's podcast is very meaningful to me. Today's podcast is called Sober October. I am doubly blessed to have two experts on emotional freedom techniques and EFT tapping. So thank you to everyone who is listening and watching. I want to make a comment before we get started about why I do this podcast. I do it because I want to give everybody listening and watching out there resources. I want you to have really strong evidence-based tools, as in emotional freedom techniques, which is in my blood and my soul at this point. And I want you to know that there is help available, because I guarantee, practically guarantee, that in most clinics and rehab centers in the United States, they're not offering emotional freedom techniques. So these tools,
not in Australia either.
Okay. Not in Australia either, my guest says. So these tools are so important and so incredibly helpful for helping you with your sobriety. I can't stress that enough. So this is why I bring this podcast to you, because I want you to have tools. I want you to have hope. I want you to learn from the experts as to how you can have an alcohol-free life. So without further ado, first I want to introduce Katie Walker, who is the beautiful dark-haired lady. She is a certified EFT practitioner. And Katie, tell everybody what else you do.
Thanks, Joan, and thank you so much for giving Jules and I the opportunity to do this, because it is actually close to our heart and a passion, certainly. So yes, I am a EFT coach. I work in Perth. I do see clients in Perth. I have clients online all over the world, and my focus has, up until this point, has typically been working with working mums to help them overcome the stress and overwhelm of all of that, working family, children, blah, blah. And I've just recently certified as a relationship coach. So helping women primarily to find their perfect person, and also to help with some of the issues in the boudoir. So sex and intimacy issues that they may be facing, to help create a wonderful life for themselves with their current partner and for future partners.
Fantastic.
Go.
And Jules Vandermaat. Did I say that right, Jules? Your last name?
Yeah, that's fine. Vandermaat, doesn't matter.
Jules is also a certified EFT practitioner and social worker, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Neat. So both of these geniuses are down in Australia. But okay, Jules, tell the world about yourself.
Sure, Joan. So I am, as I said, a social worker and a therapist, and I'm an advanced EFT, a certified EFT practitioner, and I live in Coffs Harbour, Australia. And my area of specialisation is working with trauma, and specifically the trauma of sexual abuse. So I discovered EFT when I was working as a sexual assault counsellor, and just finding that the old talk therapy wasn't doing much. And so I actually just came across EFT on Facebook with Nick Ortner tapping with Louise Hay, and I was like, wow, I've got to find out some more about this. And I'm just, like you, Joan, I feel like it's in my blood now. I wake up thinking about it. I dream about it. I eat, sleep, breathe EFT. So I work only for myself now and in private practice. And I also, like Katie, work online with lots of people all over the world. Lots of US clients we have, don't we? So we're used to getting up early. Yeah.
Well, thank you on behalf of the US for sure. And just to let everybody out there know, EFT works on a multitude of situations because my audio wasn't working, and then we all tapped on it and I figured out my audio.
Yeah.
So it helps with technical difficulties too. But anyway, these two geniuses have gotten together and created a program called Sober October. So can you tell us, Katie and Jules, what is the Sober October program all about?
Sure. So Katie and I created this program because we both had long and interesting relationships with alcohol, which we can tell you a bit more about later. But I had decided in early May to stop drinking again after drinking too much one night. And I was telling Katie how good I was feeling because I wasn't drinking. And she said, oh, well, Dry July is coming up. And we always do Dry July, her and her husband. And I said to her, oh, we should create a program that supports women to stop drinking or to change their relationship with alcohol. And we just both went, bing, and we got little goosebumps. And so we kind of just whipped up this program because we both, we love EFT and we love helping people with EFT. And we were just like, wow, I don't think there's anything out there that really focuses EFT on helping people with the cravings, with the limiting beliefs. How can I go a month without alcohol? With the stress and the anxiety, the reasons that people drink to kind of suppress all their negative emotions, anxiety, depression, etc. So we just thought, well, why don't we just put something together and see how it goes? And so we ran Dry July for the month of July. It was a 6-week program, and we offered one-on-one sessions to the women to sort of help prepare them. So that was before the program started. And then we had a group online program running each week through the month of July. And what it's really about is providing really good, up-to-date, recent information and education about alcohol and the role it plays in women's lives. The reasons why women drink so much these days. So there's a lot of, the first part of the group sessions are education, and we try to make that entertaining. And then the other part of the session, the live sessions, is us doing tapping with an individual or with 2 individuals if we have time, and the rest of the group is tapping along. So, what it's really about is just women supporting women. So, we know that what really helps people is getting that, really quality professional one-on-one support from either and both of us, but then also being supported by other women who are in the program who are all basically trying to do the same thing, either stop drinking or start. They're questioning the role of drinking in their life and wanting to do something about it. So, we just provide a nice, safe space for people to kind of explore their relationship with alcohol and to support one another through that process. So Sober October is basically like Dry July, but in October, and we've just tweaked it a little bit, haven't we, Katie? Anyway, we can tell you some more about that.
And Katie, for anybody who might possibly be visiting from another planet, could you please explain what emotional freedom techniques are?
Sure. So EFT, Emotional Freedom Techniques, as you said, or tapping, it is also known as tapping, is a beautiful, powerful self-help tool that is used for stress and stress management. It combines, 3 elements. You've got the cognitive piece, so really what we think about ourselves, think about our environment, combined with the somatic elements, so the actual physical tapping on meridian points, but also focusing on the felt sense, so that internal feeling within the body, the negative emotion, and then it's working with your energy field, so your meridian points. And as you're tapping, and I'm starting on the side of the hand, for anyone that doesn't know, that's where we do start on the side of the hand, is sending a calming signal to the amygdala, And the amygdala is that control center of our brain, which essentially goes run, fight, stay, freeze, faint. So it's sending a calming signal to that part of the brain that then can access, I guess, more of a relaxed, calming view. And it really is a tool that once you know how to do it, and I feel that it's something that learning online, yes, you can do it, but it's important, I think, initially to work with a practitioner to really get it down pat, to really understand what's going on and how to use it to its best and most effective, in the most effective way. So, but once you do know how to do it, as Jules alluded to earlier, yes, every other modality has its place, but sometimes just talking about things isn't enough to shift. And this can be very quick in terms of what's presenting for me, how do I actually work through that, and tapping enables that to happen. And so I think that's the secret sauce for our program, actually, in terms of why this program has been so successful, is because we are working with people's beliefs around alcohol, the thoughts, as Jules said, the negative thoughts of, if I don't have alcohol, how am I going to cope? Because, ultimately when we're drinking, we are kind of numbing some of those feelings that we feel, the stress, the overwhelm, and deeper issues around that, So it's really a very powerful component of our program.
So beautiful. Because the way I understand it, and in a perfect world, if somebody would hire us to train them, it's not about, yes, it's about the physical craving of the alcohol, but it's about the anxiety and the trauma that alcohol is masking. Because you could talk until the sky turns green and the grass turns blue, but until you deal with the underlying traumas of what created this abuse, what created this addiction, you're really not going to do any permanent.
And that's interesting, Joan, because, working with lots of women with trauma, so people come to me for that reason. And what we'd often find is after they've had a few sessions, or especially if they've had maybe 6 or 8 or 10 sessions, they'll just say to me, oh, actually, I haven't been drinking as much. I've noticed that I've stopped smoking pot, or I've noticed that, they've just, because they've dealt with the anxiety and they feel calm, they're not needing to drink. And so that was sort of a a little sign that I got last year, that a lot of the women were saying that to me, I just don't feel like I need to drink. I'm just actually don't like alcohol anymore. And so it was kind of happening in a natural way.
Yes.
Yeah. So obviously we knew it would work, and it's so good for cravings. I had a client I was working with who actually has cancer, and that was the reason that she came to work with me. And the last session, she couldn't really think of anything to work on. But she said she'd been drinking too much. And I told her about the Dry July program, but it was nearly finished already. So anyway, we tapped on her craving for wine. She was drinking a bottle of wine a night. And anyway, 3 weeks later, and she hasn't drunk at all. And so that was just one session of just tapping on that craving. I needed to relax. It helps me to connect.
There's so many.
And she's saying, I feel amazing, and I'm sleeping really well, and I've lost 3 kilograms, and and all that just from one session on just tapping on the cravings. So,
and you've got a wonderful podcast with another success from last year
that was, she wanted, actually they were the same, they just wanted to reduce their alcohol consumption on weekends only. That was the goal of both those women. And we had 1 session on tapping on the craving for the white wine, and both of them stopped. The other lady that Katie's referring to hasn't drunk for over a year. And that wasn't even her intention. Her intention was, I don't want to drink every night, because she was drinking lots every night.
Wow.
She was drinking from a box so that she couldn't actually know how much she was drinking.
Oh my gosh.
And she went from that to just not drinking at all. And she just kept going. She felt better and better and better. And so she just kept going. And we only really did 1 session on actual cravings. And then we did some sessions around stress in her household and, other issues that she was dealing with in her marriage. And that's, what we found is that often women are drinking to deal with, I'm actually not happy in this marriage, or I'm not happy in this job, but I don't really know what to do with that. So I'm drinking to just kind of sweep it all under the carpet, but it gets that rug gets lumpy, doesn't it? It gets hard to walk on.
And that's the thing, I guess, we give them the space to kind of open it up to why, and then using EFT is really softening the pain around why it is that they're choosing to drink. So I think that, again, just the importance of that component, because it can be really hard, really painful, really like, oh my God, that spotlight, ooh. So it's really key to the actual program itself.
Mm.
And I think what works really well is the combination of the one-on-one sessions. So each woman has, in Sober October, 2 individual sessions with one of us. So they'll either be allocated to Katie's team or my team. And so they'll have their individual sessions with us. So they're 90-minute, really powerful, quite intimate. We discuss quite intimate, what's really going on? What's this about? Why do you think you're drinking? Well, I'm lonely. I'm sad. I feel like I'm never going to meet the person, or I feel like I can't leave this marriage, or I feel like, I'm stuck in my life. I'm grieving the death of my mum, whatever it is. So it's the combination of that one-on-one support that we give them, and then the group support from the other women in the live online sessions and in the Facebook group. That's just the perfect. I think it's a great combo, isn't it, Katie?
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So fantastic. Oh, in my mind, ladies and gentlemen, you can't do better than Katie and Jules. If you're having a problem, there's one other EFT practitioner that I highly respect, that I've met with too, but I'm telling you, Katie and Jules have it going on. So now the other question that I had for you both is, how did you come up with this idea for the program in the first place?
Well, the actual structure itself, I think we nutted out after Jules had that little moment of, oh my goodness, because as Jules said, every year I've been doing Dry July and Sober September, not Sober October, so 2 months of a year. And so I think Jules and I just spent a lot of time working out, well, what is it that's going to benefit? And we have tweaked it a little bit for this Sober October. But just to reiterate, it's really important that we have an initial consultation just to make sure the program's actually right, because there are some people who have an alcohol addiction that possibly needs some medical intervention to work through that before joining the program.
Mm-hmm, yes.
And we want, it's an investment of time and it's an investment of money. So we want to make sure that it's right for them. So we have the initial consultation, and then we do, as Jules said, a 90-minute one-on-one before the program starts to alleviate any fears or some of the cravings. We also do an introduction, a 2-hour intro into EFT, because obviously, Joan, if anyone hasn't heard of it, we need to work through that. So there's a really good 2-hour program. What's the basic EFT, and then also tapping around cravings, and then we start the program, which is a weekly 2-hour session. So I guess Jules and I thought, what's the best use of time that's going to provide the support throughout that month. There's regular contact, as Jules said. We have a private Facebook group, adding lots of additional resources. And then we've decided this time around, just so there's sort of a clear line or a delineation, so people aren't getting too bombarded with team Jules, team Katie. So there's just that's that touch point. And I think, again, there are so many wonderful programs out there, but the difference with ours is that we are actually here physically, reaching out, contactable, making them accountable, and being their accountability partner. Because that's all well and good to go here, watch this program, but when you don't have the additional support, people can kind of go, oh, I'm just going to go off into the kitchen and, do the norm. So I think that's another really important component of the program.
Now, I think it's really important to share your experience, Katie. What's your experience with alcohol? How did you find EFT? My experience with alcohol.
Yeah. Well, how long have you got? No,
so I'm sensing that you had a problem with alcohol at one point.
Yeah, I have, Joan, and I started drinking at a relatively young age, and I probably won't say that just in case my mum is watching, but she hears stories 30 years down the track. And she goes, please don't tell me anymore. I don't want to know. But I think, you know, I started drinking to fit in, to deal with, I've got a lazy eye, and that was my little coping mechanism to kind of hide behind the bottle and get a little bit loosey-goosey. And that's kind of been my way of managing a whole lot of stuff. Now, you know, tapping has been part of my life for quite some time, but I think I've avoided using tapping because of my connection with alcohol. And it's been an amazing process with Jules in learning about what alcohol means, the addictive part of it from a physiological, psychological, emotional perspective. And you've got to deal with all of those parts. And I don't think I was prepared to. And there was a little flick, a switch flicked this time around. I think Jules inspired me because she had gone already, I think 40 or 50 days before.
Yeah, 40 days.
40 days. Yeah, and I was still drinking, and I'm like, because my husband and I normally do dry July, and I'm like, I'm just going to keep drinking and drinking and drinking. And it got to a point where we were just drinking because we knew we weren't going to drink anymore, and it was boring. But as soon as dry July hit, I woke up and it really felt very different. And we've not drunk, and I'm planning on not drinking. And my husband's still not drinking. And it's just been, now he hasn't tapped. He's found his own strength doing other things. But for me, there's been the tapping piece through the program. But my relationship with alcohol hasn't been great. And it's actually changed my relationship with my husband, my relationship with my daughter, like the energy in our household. Even though we were thinking alcohol was calming, it was accelerating a whole lot of stuff that didn't need to happen. Yeah.
Jules, what's your relationship with alcohol? How did you get so interested in this? Just as a social worker, or is there a personal background to this?
Oh, no, definitely. I had my own personal background with alcohol. So I started drinking when I was 13. I can say that because my mum was dead. And she didn't care anyway. I mean, she knew all about it. So, yeah, so I started drinking as a very early, young teenager. And I think, like Katie said, I was going out with my older sister and trying to fit in with older people. And I looked older, so nobody really questioned, why is she here? Because I looked probably 16, 17. And back then, things were much looser. You could go to nightclubs and they didn't ask for ID, So, for me, it just was the Australian way of life. Like, everybody just drank heaps. Everybody that I knew drank heaps. If you met someone that didn't drink, it was like, what's wrong with them?
Wow.
Can't trust people that don't drink. So it was just part of the growing up. And then I think, obviously I didn't drink through pregnancies and breastfeeding and all that. I had big breaks for having babies and raising babies. But then I think when my mum got sick and died of cancer about 10 years ago, that really escalated my drinking around that time, because Dad would invite me around, because Dad was lonely, and he would invite me around and he'd just keep topping me up until I basically couldn't drive home. And I wouldn't even know how many I had. And I have learned since we're doing this program, like Katie was saying, we've learned so much about alcohol ourselves, haven't we?
Oh my
that
gosh.
When you start drinking to relieve things like stress and anxiety and grief, it actually wires in your brain, and that you get this, your brain starts to believe that it needs alcohol in order to relieve that feeling, that sensation. And anyway, I'm not saying I didn't have a problem before Mum died and got sick, but it certainly escalated. So then I actually stopped drinking altogether in 2015, and I didn't drink alcohol for 2.5 years. And I look back on that time and think that was actually the best I felt, the best I looked, everything. That was when I found EFT, was in that time. Like, my life really took off when I didn't drink for a long time.
Yeah.
And then I kind of let it back in towards the end of 2017. And I think I just was sick of being good all the time, and I thought I'm a party girl by nature from earlier years. And I felt like I just want to go out there and drink and dance like everybody else. So I started kind of letting it in a little bit, and I was able to, to do what we call moderation to some degree some of the time. But I would find that it would just, for me, the pattern would just slip back into drinking more than I wanted to in terms of amount and more than I wanted to in terms of nights in the week. And it was just taking up my headspace. I was just, if you're trying to moderate how you drink, you're thinking about drinking all the time, aren't you? Really, like, oh, well, I have a drink tonight. Oh, and I was only going to drink on weekends, and it's only a Wednesday night. Oh, but we're going out for dinner with those friends, and I really like to have a glass of red wine with those friends. And so I just felt like I was constantly that wine witch was like, she was just in my head all the time, and it just annoyed me basically. And even though I could go out and drink and just have 2 glasses of red sometimes, other times I would go home and just open a bottle and keep going, and then wake up in the morning and think, oh, I hate myself. I hate my life. Why do I do this? I'm so pathetic. And so, yeah, when I stopped again in May, I thought I'm going to actually use tapping. Like Katie, I was like, I had tapped for some things. Like I tapped for people with cravings in demos, because I'm an EFT trainer as well. I tapped for some cravings myself in the past around wine, but I thought I'm going to actually use EFT properly, you know. And guess what? It works. So, you know, I tapped on an event coming up that didn't end up coming up because of COVID, but I tapped on imagining it being at this friend's 40th and everybody's drinking champagne except me. And that I did that tapping with an EFT coach, Melissa Hankins, who is a good friend of mine from the US. And it was a really big, proper, 90-minute session. And I just felt through with that session, I let go of so much stuff like, oh, everyone's going to think I'm boring, I won't have as much fun. All this kind of what do people think of me, and all this stuff I didn't even know was in there. And towards the end, I just was like, I know that nobody cares if I drink or not, actually. And anybody that does care, I don't want them as a friend anyway. So
if they're going, why aren't you drinking? Put that poison in you.
Yeah, so anyway, like Katie, I think I really avoided using EFT to help with the alcohol problem in the past. But this year I'm like, no, let's actually turn that tool on yourself and see what it can do. And I actually haven't it's really been easy. I think there was one night I rang Katie on a Friday night because I was hungry, tired, stressed and craving wine. And I said to her, I just feel like having a drink. And she said, no, you can do it. And I went and had some pizza and like a mineral water or something, and I was fine. But that was I really haven't had a lot of trouble because I've used the EFT myself this time to really deal with it. So I guess that's the good thing is we understand, we're only working with women in this program. We know where they're coming from. We know what it's like to get home from work and just want to reach for that bottle of wine and, go straight to relaxation town. Yeah.
And even, as you said, Jules, waking up in the morning going, oh my God, why have I done that? And then 5 o'clock comes around and going, all right, well, I'm going to go and have another one just to now feel okay again. It's just that constant battle. Yeah.
Well, the 2 questions I really want to ask are, who would this be helpful for? I mean, I think it's helpful for anyone who has a problem with alcohol, but I would think, do they have to be open to trying this? I would think.
Yeah, I think, we've touched on it a couple of times. We are working with women who are struggling and go, I want that wine, I don't want that wine, I want that wine, I don't want that wine. Okay. Or there's been that creep of I'm just drinking from Monday to Sunday and now it's Tuesday to Sunday, or it's every night of the week, and the thoughts are consuming them, because that was what was happening for me, and I don't think my family and friends fully realised. And this is a bit of vulnerability, but I was actually waking up in the morning every morning going, I can't wait to have a drink. And this is not necessarily drinking as my first cup of coffee alcohol, but I'm this is great, I get to have a drink later today. And so when that thought is the first one that you have in the morning, that is not cool. That is not how I want to live my life. And it felt very incongruent with being a person that's trying to help others overcome certain things, yet I've got this massive thing in my closet that I'm not dealing with. So it's for, it's for women who just have that constant, and the wine witch, as Jules beautifully put, it's that person just going, you deserve it. Yes, you need it. And I just feel that anyone though who does because it's a spectrum of alcohol dependency or it's an alcohol disorder, anyone sitting at the higher end of that spectrum is probably not for them, I don't think. Is that right, Jules? We need to ensure there's that support from a medical...
Apparently, the research shows that 90% of people are addicted to alcohol more in a psychological sense. So the alcohol leaves the body within around 10 days. And so cravings, the physical cravings should really be gone after about 10 days. And what happens after that is more the emotional, psychological cravings, which we know EFT is great for. So there's a percentage of people that get the real DTs. That's very dangerous for them to actually stop drinking cold turkey. So they really need support from GPs and possibly, medication support with that. So that's probably, we wouldn't say that they couldn't do this program, but that's why we do the screening to kind of make sure.
Okay.
But most people would be okay with this.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if they were at that, if there was the medical intervention, then this is just going to take some of that additional pressure off and help with the stress around that. And I think the other thing that's really important to point out is that we do smaller groups. So we realised that the Dry July, our Australian group was probably a little big. So we're doing like max of 8 because that's going to make people feel more comfortable in that group setting. Because we do need people to really contribute and open up and to go into that place of vulnerability, which again can be very hard. But everyone's there for the same reason, and there is that support and that safety and that confidentiality to be able to work through the stuff that comes up.
Ladies,
and for all of the women,
I
was just going to say, Joan, just to be really upfront, for all, like it's easy for us to talk about this stuff because that's kind of how we roll. But for all of those women, there was a lot of EFT practitioners in our group. There's a lot of health professionals, social workers, psychologists. So a lot of them were coming with shame, with guilt, with kind of like, oh, this is so embarrassing that I have this problem because I help other people, like Katie said. And, another thing that we sort of see as a theme is women that are healthy in all other aspects of their life. So they're doing yoga and meditation, or they're doing fitness stuff, and they eat really healthy food, and maybe they do tapping, or but then they're pouring this poison onto their brain and body every night, and it's so like it doesn't go together. But so we notice a bit of a pattern in that women are coming with like they're looking after themselves in all these ways, in all these other healthy ways, but they've come to see alcohol as a self-care tool. Like, this is my time out. This is my reward from the children and the stress and the whatever. Like I deserve this. I need this. This is my fun. This is my me time. This is, and there's been a whole lot of kind of cultural shift in targeting women around that's the way to deal with your stress, anxiety, anger, frustration. But that's also the way to have fun, bond with other women, socialise. This is the way to calm your social anxiety. This is the way we connect with other people. Like, we just hear the same things over and over again, don't we, Katie? In the individual sessions and in the group sessions, all the women are kind of saying the same things. This is what I've been told to believe. Alcohol's the answer for everything. And it's actually letting go of alcohol, I find, has been the answer for a lot more things than it was ever helpful for. But but it's good for women to know that everyone's coming with that shame, that embarrassment. Some people in their first session, that's what we're tapping on. I'm embarrassed to even say how much I drink and how long I've been drinking for. And a lot of these women, they might have started off as social drinkers or just weekend drinkers, but maybe it's just crept up over the years. And what we've seen with COVID and lockdown and people in isolation, they might have been only drinking with friends before, but now they're sitting home drinking by themselves. And that feels really crappy. Because a lot of people say, I was never going to be someone that sat home and drank by myself, and now I'm doing that. So, and what we're seeing as an opportunity with COVID is for me, I found it was easier because if going out and socialising was a big trigger, well, then you can't do that so much anymore. So this is a good time of sort of going inwards and reflecting on, well, what's really happening here? What am I actually suppressing here with this alcohol that's actually making me feel worse most of the time?
Is there a website that anybody could go to, Or have you created one for that yet or not? Because I wanted to share that if you have one.
We actually haven't. We're in the process of doing certain things. So
Okay.
I guess, for the initial contact, they can reach out to Jules or myself to find out a little bit more and to get clarity, because there is a very clear structure for the program.
Okay.
So just via Facebook or Messenger, but we can send additional information to you, Joan,
And
later.
if it's okay, would it be appropriate for me to have your emails in the description of this?
And we have our own individual website. So mine's just www.tappingwithjules.com. So they can contact us on Messenger, Facebook, or through our individual websites for now. And I've got a Facebook page called Tapping with Jules as well, where we post all of our information on Sober October there.
This is so exciting. Sober October. All right.
And Joan, there'll be we'll come up with another little tune or a shindig for the next one. So it's probably going to be run every 2 to 3 months.
Nice.
Yes. So
this is fantastic. Do you want to talk about how much the program costs?
Yeah, sure.
You can talk about in terms of Australian dollars, and then everybody just go to Google and do the shift for wherever
I'll do
you
the
are.
math.
Okay.
So I'll just let you know the date. So we're actually starting, we're going to have 2 groups, and it's not just for Australia and the US. We're ideally wanting to have this internationally offered. So, but it will just be very dependent on their time zone. So the first group starts on the 24th of September, and that's going to be, that's a Thursday, and it's from 10 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time, and we can give you all this detail as well, Joan. And that's where we're doing the 2-hour introduction to EFT. And then for the second group, it starts on the 26th of September, and that's in the afternoon. That's a Saturday afternoon. And then for the respective groups, we do a weekly 2-hour, and that's when just called you my daughter's name, Rubes. Jules said we do an initial educational piece, and then we do an hour's worth of tapping. So that's the bonus there. And then so the cost, we've got an early birds up until the 4th of September, which is $549 Australian dollars,
and which is $377 US.
Today. Oh my God, that's a bargain considering what people are going through. I mean, I think it is, whatever you all think out there, but think of it in terms, if anybody's going, I can't, yes you can. How much money have you spent in alcohol in the past 6 months? Yes, you can.
When you work that out, absolutely, the cost of alcohol. But also, I guess if you think about the 2 90-minute one-on-one sessions that you get with one of us, and then the 2-hour training in itself.
God. Yep.
It's actually 15 hours in total, and 3 of those are individual, and then 12 is in the group setting. So
really, you're undercutting yourselves. That's not nearly enough, but I'll let you.
Well, did I say $549? I don't know. I meant 5,000.
Well, we want it to be accessible.
Yeah, we want No,
people are struggling a bit.
What a value is my point. What a value for your expertise. Yeah.
Thank you. And then it does go up to the full fee, which is $699 after the 4th of September, so $699 Australian dollars. Yeah.
So if you're interested, get in touch, because you need to have the 20-minute free consult with one of us, and we really want people to have their first one-on-one session before the program starts. So we want to, kind of get all that sorted. But the 20-minute consult is no obligation. It's really just getting to know us, asking whatever questions you have. So we're not pushy at all. We only want people that really are interested.
This has happened twice now. There was, sorry, Jules. I'm just thinking about my daughter because it's school time, I think.
Yeah.
So Jules took a call from a lady who just said, no, I need something sooner. So Jules is now doing one-on-ones, and I had that from Dry July. A lady said, no, I don't want to do the group stuff. So we then just started working together one-on-one. So that's why that 20-minute is really important. Just to go.
Yep. Just to find out,
And what a number of women in the group found, like some of them are clients of mine from beforehand, or even people I'd trained in EFT, and some of them sort of got to the end of the group and were like, you know what, I've got some work to do. I've got some traumas that I really need to deal with. We just find, what I find is someone that specialises in trauma, women get to their 40s, 50s, and trauma bubbles up. It's stuff that you thought
Yep.
was, I've dealt with that, I've had lots of therapy. When you get to be kind of 40s, 50s, it all starts to kind of come out and want to be dealt with, doesn't it, Joan? So
Yes, it does.
a number of the women who went through the program are now having ongoing sessions with one or the other of us. So there's always that option there, and we're giving those at discount rates. So
Beautiful.
the women who've done the program can continue to have that ongoing support. And we also keep the Facebook group open, so they're continuing to get, you know, good links. And because we've done all the work, we sort of know where to direct people to other free resources and good books to read and podcasts to follow. So that sort of continues on after the group finishes as well. Yeah.
And if there are any licensed therapists in the U.S. that would like to learn more about tapping, go to my website, which is tappingwithjoan.com, because I have a webinar series through the University of Pittsburgh School of Social Work, 6 hours on what emotional freedom techniques are, and you can earn 6 contact hours. And since, at least in Pennsylvania, our license is due to renew in February 2021, you can get 6 contact hours studying emotional freedom techniques towards your license. Bing! So there's my commercial.
I love it. I love it.
That's great.
This has been fabulous and so needed. And thank you for being patient with me during the technical difficulties. But
good.
to have both of you on, this is so cool because I've never done a podcast with 2 experts. So this has been so much fun. Thank you for getting up early in the morning.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
I want to thank everybody who is listening, who is watching, because you know I only bring quality guests to my podcast. And usually it's about tapping. But thank you all for listening and watching. Please contact Katie or Jules if you're interested in their program, because really, talk therapy alone is not enough. So thank you all for watching and listening. And
thank you, Joan.
be safe.
Thanks, Joan.